Hello, and welcome. Today we are talking about dealing with distractions, and I'm very excited to get into this. This is something that comes up a lot but from my own personal life and experience, and also with the many creative people that I tend to work with. So so welcome to this week's Marketing, Branding and Getting the Sale show. I am here with my co-hosts, Jess and Stephen. Let's before we dive into our topic today, let's just do some quick intros. Jess, off you go.
Good morning. So I help businesses get more loyalty through the marketing that they're already doing. So we all know more loyalty means more sales, which means more profit, more money in our pocket. So we do that by going through a 6-step loyalty process that I've created. If you want to know what that process looks like, or even just that first step to see if that step is right for your business, drop me a message and I'll tell you a little bit more about that.
Fabulous. Thank you, Jess. Stephen.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Una. So my name's Stephen Lerman from Chameleon BDS Limited, an outsourced business development service. So if you are looking to increase your sales, but just don't want to, or don't have the resource to pick up the phone and make those outbound calls and set up some appointments, then you can give me a call and I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you to see how I can get you in front of more people. Thanks.
Fabulous. Thank you, Stephen. And if you don't know me yet, my name is Una Doyle. My business is Creative Flow, and I help SME business owners who are super ambitious, high performing, to create a business that they absolutely love, that's highly profitable. They could sell tomorrow, but probably don't want to. However, maybe they're feeling out of flow, exhausted, and a bit like an octopus. So I can help them to deal with all of that. Okay, so let's dive into today's topics, dealing with distractions. And we started the description for this with squirrel. I love that. I love that film Up. Have you seen it? Pop in the comments if you have. By the way, if you're watching live, put hashtag live. If you're watching on the replay, put hashtag replay. We want to hear from you. What's your experience with distractions? What do you tend to experience? What solutions have you found? So yeah, we're going to dive into that. First off, I just want to talk about I want to talk about why it's so important to be able to deal with distractions. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is that if you allow yourself to get distracted, then you just don't get things done.
I agree.
Isn't it?
Can I just say, I very quickly, I was reading something the other day when I knew what the topic was. I read somewhere, there's a study, it was based in California, where everyone's really laid back and everything. But it takes, if you get interrupted at work, it takes an average of 23 minutes to get back on track. So
absolutely,
can you imagine how much time is lost throughout the day? Because you get interrupted more than once, don't you?
Oh, well, but do you? That's the interesting thing. I don't get distracted very often at all. And there's a reason for that. And I'm going to talk, well, there's several reasons for that. And, that's what we're going to kind of dive into. But I think not only does getting distracted stop people getting stuff done, it also then causes them to beat themselves up about getting distracted and not getting stuff done. True?
Yeah.
So, and I think this can create a real negative cycle. Yeah. So, I mean, look, the three of us, we're all quite creative people, and, we're kind of naturally very easily distracted, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm naturally a magpie. Anything that looks new, looks shiny, looks interesting, I'll dive straight into it. Well, naturally, I'll want to dive straight into it. I have to put a lot in place to keep me focused. But it's not a chore. It doesn't turn into a chore. But I can completely relate to this.
Absolutely. Yeah, good morning, Chris. Oh, a bit of humour there. I missed the intros. I was distracted. Thank you for joining us, Chris, and lending a bit of humour to our day. So why do people get distracted? Jess, what are your main distractions?
I just like a next new big idea. I just like new ideas. I have loads of them. I've got, a lot of my sessions, it's all about getting into businesses and getting them ideas created, and then we can implement them. But so I love that side of things. I love having new ideas. I was even talking to my partner last night, and we were talking about recognition. Actually, we were talking about recognition and feeling that we had recognition from other people, and, went through reviews, testimonials, things like that. And something that he even said to me, which nothing to do with productivity, but he says, you'll get a good review and you'll get some good feedback, and in the moment you'll love it, but then all of a sudden you'll move on to the next thing and you'll forget it and dismiss it. So even with, when we're talking aside from productivity and tasks, I just love moving on to the next thing. If I've known about it for about 5-10 minutes, it's old news to me. that's my mindset around it.
That newness is listen, when I first set up in business, they talk about shiny new object syndrome. Because shiny new object syndrome can be internal or external. So it can be my new idea, or it can be something that's out there, which is a new trend, a new fad, a new technology. Like I love software and things, anything that's going to automate boring tasks, all of that. So I think that shiny new object syndrome can be both, really. So yeah, and I really, really suffered from that, and it massively affected my business. Stephen, what's your biggest distraction?
So two things. So not as much what Jess said about moving on to the next new thing, although I do have that constant thought. So that is a constant distraction for me, because I want to make sure that I've got what I'm working on now set up and working smoothly before I move on to the next one. But it's constant in the back of my mind. But the other thing is, when I'm doing research, is going down rabbit holes, and I'm for clients, and next thing you know, I've lost like 10, 15 minutes Googling something, and I've gone down so many rabbit holes. I can't find my way back, and I have to walk away from my computer for a good 5 minutes to refocus. And it's a tough one, because I need to do the research. So I have good intentions when I start the task at hand, but then it's like, ooh, and I'm gone. Literally, I'm gone.
So is it that you get distracted by something else, or is it that you're just diving so deep into the research that you're doing?
It's a combination of both, but I think it's more because what I do is I need to create relationships with the people that I'm talking to. So I'm trying to find something to latch on to, but it's knowing at what point to stop, saying, okay, I really don't need to know that, but I need to know something. So it's the cutoff before I then reel myself back in and move on. So it's if that makes sense.
I think that's really interesting as well. We're coming from it from different angles, because Stephen, it sounds like you're getting caught up in the detail and I'm getting caught up in the next new thing. So it's good to show the difference.
But it's really funny, because I'm not a detail person. I'm high level. I have so much stuff going on in my head. I can't know everything about everybody, because my head will explode. So I've taken that decision to not get down in the detail, but then I find myself getting caught up in the detail. So I'm like, it's a vicious circle.
Well, it's interesting, actually, because from a profile point of view, and actually we are going to have, I think in 2 or 3 weeks' time, we're going to be talking about personality profiles. So we all know our profiles from the system that I use, Ignition. So I'm a pilot, Stephen's a pilot, Jessica is an astronaut. So Jessica has a bit more. No, I'm calling you Jessica now. It's because it's on your thing. I always call you Jess.
Naughty name.
More of that creative, innovative fuel than Stephen and I do, but we do have it. But we also are more extroverted, and are maybe a little bit more people focused. And I think that's why, if you were researching, scientific stuff, then unless you had a particular interest in it, then you wouldn't find that interesting and get down a rabbit hole. It's because you're researching people.
Yeah.
That's what that and it's so interesting to get to understand these distinctions,
Oh,
so
I get that totally. Now that you mention it, I am totally. I'm a people watcher. I love to, nitty gritty.
Yeah. And I think for me, like, my biggest distractions, actually, it's kind of a bit like both of you, but it's definitely those new ideas. They can create a distraction, and I think it's probably more just that being social. So like what I do now is I'll set a particular time slot to do social media engagement, but then I might it would be very easy. I've set up things so that this doesn't happen, but it would be really easy for me to go and make a cup of tea, and while I'm waiting for the kettle, get on social media, and then next thing I know, 20 minutes have gone. because I'm engaging with people, and I really like that. So this is why we've got to make sure that we put things in place to allow us so that that doesn't happen so much. So we got a comment here from Chris. Apparently, we have an estimated between 50,000 and 80,000 thoughts a day. So that's an average of 3,000 to 5,000 thoughts per hour. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's also interesting is that for the average person, something like 70 to 90% of those thoughts are negative. And yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Yes. And this is why the mindset part of this is so important, because sometimes people will get distracted by the, oh, can I do this? I'm not good enough. What's so and so going to think? All of those kinds of things going on. And so it's really important that we make sure that we're not getting distracted, because we're actually unknowingly self-sabotaging ourselves. And I know definitely for me, in the early days of my business, there was a lot of that going on. So, you know, I'd set up originally as a life coach. I'd got into personal development, but at that point I hadn't done the deep mindset work that I have done now. And boy, has that helped me to be way more focused. You know, so that I can focus for hours now, you know, without getting distracted, you know. And part of this is about understanding flow. So all these things kind of work together, right? So flow, just for those of you who haven't heard me talk about it, is, you know, that feeling when you're just totally on it, when, you know, you're really making progress on things, you are focused, you don't tend to get distracted when you are in flow. Even when you're facing obstacles and challenges, you just somehow have this inner confidence of, I can do this. Well, that's that feeling of flow. It's a state of being. And it's so interesting because, you know, when you're in flow, you know, it's one of those things that you, as a business owner, you want to structure your business and your time to allow you and any team members to be in flow as much as possible, because you will be more focused, you're less likely to get distracted, you'll be more productive, and you cannot be in flow and stressed in the same moment. And I think stress in itself can be a big distraction. So the mindset side of it, and where people have got self-doubt of some kind, but also just worry. I think worry can be a distraction for a lot of people. So the more that we can structure things to be in flow, the more that we do the mindset work to shift those distractions, I think that really helps. So I think, you know, being out of flow, often people would be really distracted, and having those mindset those negative patterns going on can be a big distraction as well. So what's your thoughts on what I said there before I go on to the next things I think cause distraction, and then we'll get into, well, how do you actually deal with it?
I want to echo on that mindset, that personal mindset side of things, because I struggled with that a lot when I first started out. And if I hadn't have, you know, discovered personal mindset and activities and practices to do to help me with them thoughts, I definitely wouldn't be stood here having my own business today. Like I would have given up. I would have done something else. And I'm what, coming up to 5 years in my business now. So it's not even like I've been doing it for 20, 30 years, but I still would have probably turned away from it a good few years ago. And even to this day, I still get them negative thoughts. I still get, you know, things that pop up. Are you really good enough? Is this really working? All this stuff still comes up. But having someone to talk to, having things to do to move on from that thought a lot quicker, that helps 1,000,000%. You know, a little thought like that can linger on us for hours, days, months, weeks, years if we let it. So yeah, having them activities, them practices, and being aware of it has definitely helped me just move on from it and turn it into a positive somehow as well, and do that. So yeah, they definitely still happen, and it's definitely something to look at.
Absolutely. Steve, any other thoughts? Or Steve?
Yeah, no, I'm just going to echo what Jess said and what you said. I think mindset has massively helped me on my journey. When I first, and I'm a constant worrier, I worry about everything. I mean, there's some things you can't control, obviously, but my business, I'm 2 years in, and I constantly worry about whether it's going to survive, whether it's sustainable, whether I'm going to leave anything for my kids, that type of thing. But I practice mindset coach. I have a mindset coach, as you know, and I can't tell you the positive impact that that's had on me and my business, self-belief and everything. And the worrying has got less and less on the business side. The day-to-day stuff, that's always going to be there, but it's getting smaller. But I think mindset, really does help you focus. And I'm a massive believer. I was before, but now even more. So it's amazing, really.
Definitely. This is why I have all my ongoing coaching clients, they get a mindset coach as part of the program. And the reason is that work is what I credit with me going from, and people don't believe it because they kind of look at me now and go, but Una, you're so confident. I was like, my self-esteem was through the floor. Honestly, and I was always extroverted, so I could always talk to people. And I think people confuse being shy with being unconfident, and they're not the same thing. Someone can be confident in their abilities but still be a bit shy in meeting other people. Maybe they're just a bit more introverted. But yeah, gosh, I had so many negative patterns around money, around my self-worth, around my relationships and all of that. So yeah, it's definitely made a massive, massive difference. And I think, I like to say I have an empty head, which for many people would be a criticism, like, that person, they're empty-headed. It's like, I actually think having an empty head is awesome. I have got loads of space for wonderful ideas to come and fill my head, and to focus, to be able to have the capacity to focus on what it is that I'm doing. So yeah, I think that's really, really important. So there's another cause, I think, of distraction, which is a lack of clarity. And if people are unclear on what to focus on and what actions to take, I think it's way more easier to get distracted. So I think having a plan is so important. A plan of action, plan of activities. What is it you're going to be doing? What are team members supposed to be doing? Perhaps having some accountability as well can really help, people to get refocused if they do get distracted, because there's that bit more impetus of, right, I've got to get this done. I have a deadline. I think that's really important. How has a lack of clarity affected either of you?
Well, before having a plan, before even putting plans into place, it just opened up room for this like squirrel moments. It just gave them opportunity. It kind of fueled that. Obviously it still happens. I don't just not have ideas anymore and just not want to do new things, but I've got a plan that excites me to keep on with the one that I'm doing, and each little step is a new little part of the big plan. So yeah, not having the plan in place at all just opens, it's just asking for distractions, really, in my case, anyway.
I think for me, having a plan is super important, because it's, it keeps me on track, because I do tend to get a little bit distracted. But what was happening in the past was, if I didn't do a certain part of that plan, I would worry about it, and then I would like, oh God, really? But really, it's a journey, isn't it? A plan is a journey, So I've got clarity on where I see the end. The end is in sight. It's a way down the line, but I've got a plan. I know what I'm going to do and where I'm going to end up eventually. So it just keeps me on track, and it keeps me clear. I know what I'm going to do. So the distractions are becoming less and less. So it's no, I totally get it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it makes a big difference. We've got a comment here from Scott saying, mindset everything. It would be great to hear how you all practice this. Scott, I'll message you after this live to kind of share some of those details with you. There's a particular methodology that our mindset coaches use, which is a patent pending neuroplasticity technique. and it's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So unfortunately, it's not something that I can just kind of go, oh, do this. It does involve working with another person. I mean, there are other things that you can do, like meditation, which I find to be very valuable as well, and journaling. I think, journaling for me helps to kind of corral my thoughts. And it's also a great way of, like I did a deep meditation last week, and I got inspiration, and I have my 90-day plan, but I've now got another angle on my 90-day plan of a way to implement it that I hadn't thought of. And actually, just because of a change of perspective in my business and kind of the direction I'm going in, all of a sudden something that I had previously dismissed, I'm like, actually, yeah, this would be a great way for me to achieve X. And so I was able to, after the meditation, kind of journal that out. What's that going to look like? So I think sometimes people think of journaling as this, it's just this complete kind of written verbal diarrhea, stream of consciousness. But actually, it can be a lot more focused than that. And I use it as well to kind of check in. So I'll literally ask myself questions and see what answers I get. Is it best to do things this way? Or best to do it that way? And so I'll check in, and sometimes I need some more data before I make that decision. Sometimes, it's quite intuitive. So I think there's, and I think there's a case for both, that we ought to know enough, so that we can follow our intuition, is kind of the way I would probably put it. But don't ignore data as well. So we've talked about flow, we've talked about it, and I was going to go back to Chris's comment here. I would actually trust you guys to fly my private jet and rocket any days. So I'll let you know about the personality tool. It's really great. But there's one central thing that we've not really talked about, which is external interruptions where other people are interrupting. And what I see in my coaching is that this is huge for a lot of people, where they haven't put proper boundaries in place. So with this, obviously the solution is to put those boundaries in place. But I have it where I'll be, particularly in the early days, I start working with somebody and they're talking about how family member, friends, team members, clients, actually, they're preventing them from doing what they need to be doing in their business because they're overgiving, they haven't put appropriate boundaries in place, they're people pleasing, ex people pleaser here. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting, apart from anything else, apart from being a huge distraction. So having boundaries in place, I think, makes a big difference. And one way of doing that is to really structure your time. So with my clients, we do a weekly flow framework, it's a framework. It will flex, according to your priorities week to week, but it's based on a 90-day plan. It's harnessing, what you need to be doing in your business, but doing it together. And this is going back to a point you made, Stephen, earlier, about when you get distracted, it can take up to 23 minutes to get back focused again. So there's a thing called context switching. So even if you don't have an external distraction, if you switch from one task or activity to another, actually the same things happen. That it can take that amount of time to get refocused. So a really great thing to do is to time block, but in a way where you're doing similar things together. And so it's easy, when you know your personality profile, to base it around those 4 fuels that make up the 8 profiles in the ignition compass. So that's something practical. Even if you don't know your profile, you can still kind of look at, well, what are similar kinds of task activities, rather than going by project, which might have multiple different types of tasks of activities. And I think that's how most people, they go, oh, on Monday I'm going to do project A, on Tuesday I'll do project B. Actually, you might be better off doing some bits of project A and B within the same time block, because they're they have that similar energy about them, a similar way of thinking. so yeah, I mean, I know this is something that you both have utilized. What do you want to kind of share? What's been your results in doing that?
I love the weekly flow framework. Absolutely love it. I love knowing where I'm at, what I'm doing. I love, even when I'm talking to clients, when I'm organising their meetings, their workshops, we've got set kind of days that they do something as well, so they know what's coming up for the next 3 months because we've got that planned in. Yeah, I just love it. I love opening up my calendar, and even though it's full, I don't think, oh my God, wow, how am I going to get through all this? I think, oh, I've got an hour of this kind of work to do, and then I've got half an hour of this, and oh, I might have a lunch and go for a walk. Then I'm yeah, it's just and it's colourful.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like that part of it? So yeah, it works really well for me. So if if you're intuitive to what kind of energy you use on what activities, then implement this. If you're a bit confused about where to start, drop Una a message because she's got plenty of things she'll be able to throw at you to help you. So yeah, I'm a huge advocate of the weekly flow framework.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting, actually, the number of times when, kind of having some accountability calls and people are like, oh, I haven't got this done. The first question I ask them is, are you still using your weekly flow framework? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is, oh, no. So yeah, it makes a big difference. What about you, Stephen?
I do like the weekly flow framework. I'm not as au fait with it as Jess is. I've just started getting used to it, but I like to see things in front of me. I can't just have it in my head. I need to know it's written down and it's there so I can see, and I know that I've got time to do this there, and I've got a certain amount of time, and I know on a regular basis that I've got an allotted time so I can focus. Focus Mate is a great one for me, which you introduced me to, which is absolutely bloody brilliant. I have to tell you, amazing.
So I'd love to hear you explain what it is and how it works, actually.
So Focus Mate is basically, it's like a Zoom accountability session. You basically, you can you hook up with somebody else anywhere else in the world for either 25 minutes or 50-minute blocks, and you basically tell them what tasks you've got to do, and they tell you what their tasks have got to do, and you say good luck, and then we'll let you know how we get on at the end of the session, and that is it. But it's like having big brother, big sister watching you. I mean, you can still get up and do stuff if you really have to or need to, but you really, because you've got somebody sat there looking and knowing if the screen's gone blank, where have they gone? It's there's no consequences really apart from yourself letting yourself down. But it's just brilliant. I get so much stuff done in the morning because otherwise I just potter, make a coffee, have breakfast, read the paper. But now a good hour and a half most mornings, I use that time to get stuff done that I wouldn't have time to do during the working day, and also do my dailies and weeklies, knowing that I've got to get that done before I can move on to the next session. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Bit of structure stops you getting from distracted. That's what it's all about. It's just structure. There you go.
Absolutely. Structure is so key. I love Focus Mate. I recommend it all the time. I use it all the time, and it just makes such a difference. Accountability overall is brilliant. That accountability in the moment, there's just something about the energy of another person being there. Now, there's a small number of people it doesn't work for. I would say probably 9 out of 10 people I've recommended it to who've actually gone and used it. And by the way, it is like so affordable. I don't know what the pricing is now, but last time I looked, it was $5 a month. So I would definitely go and try it out. You can have 3 sessions a week for free. So try it out. It makes such a big difference. The other thing that can really help with concentration as well, and Chris has mentioned this, is that some people need music to help them focus. Oh, good question. Can multitasking help and hinder? Okay, no, absolutely. Multitasking is not a real thing.
It's a myth.
So, yeah, it is totally a myth. So here's what I would say. If you think about context switching and then think about multitasking, yeah, it doesn't work. Now, the only time it works is like I will often, when I'm, so I sew as a hobby, as many of you'll know. So I quite often might have something on, like if I'm doing something that doesn't require thought, like ironing fabric or something, then I could be watching a training video and that would be fine. But to try and do something where you actually need to focus on more than one thing at once, no, can't do it. So I would definitely echo what Chris has suggested there, though, in terms of music. It absolutely can be helpful. You can go on YouTube and search for the term binaural music. And binaural just means you need to listen to it through headphones. And what it does is it has different sounds going in one ear than the other, and they have frequencies. They quite often have music overlaid to them so that you don't hear the frequencies as such. And so there's ones for relaxation, there's ones for focus. I use an app called Brain FM, which is brilliant. It is a paid for app, but you can get a free trial to try it out. I really like it because it gives you different genres of music. It's just there. It has different frequencies for deep work, for study, for relaxation. So there's lots of options there. So yeah, I find that absolutely fantastic. So look, what we've talked about here today then is, if you allow yourself to be distracted, and I say those words, allow yourself, very specifically, actually, because it is something we have a lot more control over than we think. So if you're a real ideas person, give yourself time and space to have those ideas, such as meditation, going for walks, journaling. If you're like me, you might want to talk things through with people. My husband's a great sounding board. I have my coaches as well to do that. But I allow that space for those ideas to come up, so they're not interrupting me on a daily basis. I mean, of course, I get the odd idea here and there, but I can just write it down and come back to it at an appropriate time, because that time is slotted into my schedule. We want to make sure that we're in flow, we're working to our natural strengths and personality, because that in itself allows us to be more focused and to not get distracted. Do the mindset work. If you are having those negative patterns coming in, or you find it hard to create those boundaries to prevent those external distractions, then make sure that you do that work. It will benefit you in so many ways for sure. And use tools and set up your environment. We haven't really had time to get into that, and we need to wrap things up now, but how you structure your environment is really important. So your environment in terms of how you set up your schedule, your calendar, and using tools like Brain FM or binaural tracks on YouTube or wherever, Spotify, they're probably on there as well. And the focus mate sessions. So there's just something about this structuring your time in that way and having that in the moment accountability. It's really, really powerful. I know it might sound a bit weird, but give it a go. It's definitely worth it. Yeah, great. Stephen, what's been most significant for you in what we've talked about here today?
I think what you said earlier about having clarity, for me, that's a big one. Yeah, at the planning. Yeah, absolutely. Because without a plan, you're just going to be all over the place, and it's an invitation for disruption, I think.
Yes, I like that phrasing. Yeah, definitely. What about you, Jess?
Everything that you've said, I want people to rewind it, a few minutes and write that checklist down of everything that you've just said and go through what they can do in them little spots. And something else that you said again is making time for it. We can all say that we've no time in the day. We can all have time going quickly, but if we don't make time for things, that's when we're never going to get it done. That's when we're going to start multitasking. So making time, even if it's time to listen to some music, even if it's time to make a brew, even if it's time to look out the window, make time for all these little things and put yourself first in these situations as well. Mindset, don't fill your diary with clients and customers and other people, have little slots in there for yourself and make time for yourself. So yeah, everything. Rewind and make that checklist, get some stuff done.
Rewind and replay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Make those notes. Yeah, there's one thing that just kind of popped into my head as you were saying that, Jess, is that I think my best case study so far is a client who I helped free up a whole 2 days a week. And that allowed them to hire their first staff member months ahead of schedule. And and they were a solopreneur at that point. They had nobody to delegate to or outsource to. There was no cost involved in them doing that. It was simply getting focused on the right things in their business and structuring their week according to that weekly flow framework, ditching the things that didn't work for them, focusing on the things that did. So if we all do that, I think it creates that environment where we're clear, we're focused, we know what we're doing, we're structuring our time, we're structuring our environment to make things work for us. So we really can make a massive, massive difference. Fantastic. Thank you everyone for joining in with us here today, and we love having your interactions. If you missed us live, please feel free to comment with any questions or observations yourself, and we'd love to see those. We always come back, and when we get a little ping notification, we will come back and reply to you. So if you found what you've heard today to be of value, then please feel free to reach out to Stephen, Jess, or myself. We're all happy to help you in our different ways. We are going to be talking about communication techniques next week, so make sure you have this in your diary, 8 a.m. UK time. We'll see you then. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.